Welcome to the True Assassins podcast. This show is all about the dark world of, murder and hitmen, and we're diving into some really fascinating stories today from Orlando Madsbrine's True Kill, exploring the deceptive nature of conflict and how appearances can be super misleading when it comes to the true faces of those who operate in the shadows. We always have some truly intriguing material on this show, and we're here to help unpack the key insights for you.
Absolutely. I think this deep dive is going to help us understand just how much appearances can be misleading in situations, like really high stakes, betrayal. I mean, we're talking about assassins and hitmen. We're going to extract the core strategies and some surprising twists these narratives reveal.
Right, yeah, it's about looking beyond the surface.
Exactly.
Okay, so first up, we're heading back in time, back to the days of Saxon warlords and Viking operatives.
Yeah.
So you gave us this snapshot of a vengeful Saxon leader clashing with this really cunning Viking who wasn't afraid to use brutality, but also some pretty unexpected diplomatic moves. I mean, what was the initial dynamic that kind of jumped out at you in this story?
Well, the immediate impression I get is this very stark contrast in approaches to conflict.
Yeah.
You have Athelred, he's fueled by this very personal, very visceral, I would say, desire for revenge against those Viking invaders.
Right.
And it's a classic warrior mentality.
Pure rage.
Yeah.
I mean, the setting that you highlighted, the battlefield reeking of blood and seawater and just desperation.
Yes.
It really sets the stage for this raw emotional conflict.
Precisely. And his determination for revenge, it isn't just a strategic objective, you see, it's deeply personal. He's not just fighting for land, he's fighting for retribution.
Right. And then you have Thorvald the Bloody, Viking warlord, and that initial clash between the two of them is described as this intense dance of steel and fury. What does that kind of direct confrontation, what does that tell us about the conflict at that point?
Well, I think it establishes a traditional power dynamic. It's a very direct test of strength between the two leaders. And I think that suggests that this war is being fought on conventional terms, where might and martial prowess are the most important things.
Right. So it's this very classic clash of power versus power.
Yes.
But here's where things start to get really interesting. So the Viking tactics suddenly change. Instead of their usual all-out savagery, they actually initiate a calculated retreat.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the strategic purpose of that kind of move?
Well, it immediately introduces this element of strategic thinking that goes beyond brute force. I mean, a calculated retreat could be used to lure an enemy into a trap or to regroup, maybe even to create this false sense of victory, leading to complacency. It suggests that Thorvald, he's not just relying on aggression. He's got more to him.
So he's playing the long game a little bit.
He is.
Yeah, which of course leads to Athelred's downfall.
Yes.
He's struck down by an arrow.
Yes.
And the real shocker is who betrayed him? Eldred, his trusted advisor.
Yeah.
Motivated by gold.
Yes.
What does that sudden betrayal tell us about the vulnerabilities, even within a conflict like this?
Well, I think it underscores a really crucial element in any conflict, and that's internal threats. Even the most formidable external enemy can be aided by betrayal from within. And Eldred's motivation was simple greed. He said the gold they offered was too tempting. And I think that, that speaks to the corrupting influence of self-interest and how fragile loyalty can be.
It's so true. And the aftermath is it's brutal. Elgifu, who is Athelred's wife, she receives his severed head, along with this Viking scroll that reads, "Tribute paid, peace considered." What kind of message do you think Thorvald was trying to send with such a gruesome delivery like that?
I think it's a clear act of psychological warfare, designed to demoralize the Saxons and force them to just give up, submit.
Right.
The peace considered part is particularly cynical, I think. Suggesting that they might negotiate, but only from a position of absolute dominance, a dominance that they've achieved through just, awful, terrible violence.
Right. It's almost like a threat disguised as an offer.
Exactly.
It's like, we'll think about peace, but only on our terms.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it completely backfires, doesn't it?
It does.
Elgifu's initial grief actually transforms into something else. It's described as a different vengeance.
Yeah.
What's significant about this shift from raw emotion into something else?
It's a transition from reactive grief to proactive calculated retribution. It suggests that there's a deeper and more dangerous form of vengeance brewing. Right. One that's not driven by that immediate anger, but by a long-term strategy.
Right.
She's thinking ahead.
So, and her strategy involves her actually learning the Viking language.
Yes.
And tactics.
Yeah.
And preparing for this different kind of war. One that's based on cold, relentless cunning.
Right.
Not berserker rage.
Mm.
What does that adaptation tell us about what makes retaliation truly effective?
Well, it highlights the importance of really understanding your enemy.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Elgifu realizes that to truly avenge Athelred, she needs to fight the Vikings on their own terms.
Oh, is he?
Use what they know against them.
Wow.
Strategic intelligence overcoming brute force.
And then comes Thorvald's next raid.
Yes.
And this time, they see Elgifu leading the Saxon shield wall.
Yes.
But not with a weapon. She's holding Athelred's skull, impaled on a spear.
Wow.
What kind of impact do you think that would have had on those Viking warriors?
Oh, I think the psychological impact would have been immense.
Yeah, right.
It's just so visceral and horrifying. It's a symbol of her defiance and this unwavering resolve. She is turning Thorvald's act of intimidation back on him. That trophy of victory, it's now a banner of vengeful resistance. It's unexpected and deeply unsettling.
It's like this, you took something that was supposed to be like our symbol of defeat, and you've turned it into something that we have to now face.
That's right, to become our own fear.
And it works. That the Vikings, they break, not from like physical defeat, but from just the terror of seeing that.
Exactly.
And her determination.
Yeah.
And she offers them no peace. What does that refusal signify, do you think?
I think it signifies a complete rejection of Thorvald's terms.
Okay.
And a commitment to total retribution.
Yeah.
Peace is no longer an option.
Right.
Only the destruction of her enemies will suffice.
Right.
And that skull, it becomes a symbol of that absolute and uncompromising stance.
Wow. Her retaliatory actions. She starts sending severed heads of her enemies back to their homeland. This earns her the name Elgifu the Head Taker.
Yeah.
It's this brutal echo of Thorvald's initial act.
Yes.
What does this mirror image suggest about the kind of the cycle of violence?
Well, I think it illustrates how violence can, escalate.
Right.
And perpetuate itself. With each side mirroring the other's brutality, Elgifu is adopting the very tactics that were used against her.
Right.
Demonstrating, that cyclical nature of revenge.
And the story ends with the ironic end of Thorvald's reign, not at the hands of another warlord, but as a direct result of his own brutal act. That grim diplomatic offering of Athelred's head led to his downfall. Mm. What's the takeaway there?
The takeaway, I think, is that there are unpredictable and often unintended consequences to violence and brutality. Thorvald's attempt to assert dominance through terror ultimately backfired. It sowed the seeds of his own destruction. It was a strategic miscalculation.
So it's almost like he created his own worst enemy in a way.
He did.
Yeah. Okay, shifting gears completely. Let's move on to our second story from True Kill, Blunder No More.
Okay.
So we're now in Lady Windermere's very opulent drawing room, where a body has just been found on this beautiful Persian rug.
Okay.
We are introduced to Inspector Thaddeus, a brilliant detective, and his seemingly incompetent sidekick, Eustace. What's the immediate contrast we see with these two characters?
The contrast is really quite stark.
Yeah.
You have the sharp, observant intellect of the detective.
Right.
And then you have this bumbling, chaotic presence of the assistant.
Yeah.
It sets up that classic dynamic, doesn't it? Where one is expected to solve the mystery and the other to either provide comic relief or even perhaps inadvertently hinder the investigation.
Right. And that's kind of how things play out, at least initially. So you have Thaddeus making these brilliant deductions, and Eustace is just causing chaos, tripping over things, knocking things over.
Yeah.
The example of the Ming vase, he breaks it. And Thaddeus is just lamenting the destruction of vital evidence.
Of course, yes.
How important is this established perception of Eustace to what actually unfolds in the story?
I would say it's absolutely crucial.
Okay.
You see, everyone, and I mean, even a very astute Inspector Thaddeus underestimates Eustace.
Yeah.
Because of his apparent incompetence. And this allows him to operate under the radar. His actions are just dismissed as mere clumsiness.
No one's taking him seriously.
No one's taking him seriously.
Yeah. And that's the real twist, isn't it? His clumsiness isn't an accident at all.
No.
It's described as this carefully constructed, meticulous calculation hidden behind this facade.
Right.
the broken vase. It wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate distraction from the real murder weapon.
Yeah, that's right.
Which was this poisoned dart that he had planted. What does this reveal about the art of deception?
Well, it highlights the power of playing against expectations.
Yeah.
By cultivating this image of incompetence. Eustace is able to deflect suspicion.
Right.
And misdirect attention. You know, it allows him to commit the crime completely unnoticed. It's a masterful use of disguise, but not of appearance, of ability.
Right, of what people perceive you to be capable of.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this bumbling persona allows him to be overlooked by everyone, including Lady Windermere, who probably just thought he was an irritating servant.
Yes.
What psychological principle do you think is at play here?
Well, I think it plays on our cognitive biases.
Okay.
You know, we tend to categorize people very quickly.
Right.
And then we make assumptions based on those categories.
Right.
And Eustace fits so neatly into this incompetent fool category.
Right.
That people just dismiss him as a threat.
Yeah.
Or as someone capable of any real agency.
So he's using that to his advantage.
He is.
Yeah, and throughout the story, we see these examples of his cultivated clumsiness.
Right.
He trips. He almost bumps into things. He's always in the wrong place at the right time, so to speak.
Yes.
But it's all part of this carefully orchestrated act.
Right.
This performance that's providing the perfect cover for his secret, eliminations.
Right.
How does that consistency actually reinforce the deception?
Well, I think the consistency is key. If his clumsiness were sporadic, it might actually raise suspicion.
That's a good point.
But this constant stream of minor mishaps,
yeah,
it becomes his defining characteristic, something people come to expect.
Right.
And therefore don't question. It's almost too consistent to be a coincidence.
Yeah.
And yet no one considers the possibility that he's orchestrating it all.
It's like he's almost too good at being bad at his job.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect cover.
And then we get to the climax of the story. While Thaddeus is busy investigating Lady Windermere's alibi, Eustace stages this whole incident with the grand piano. This loud, chaotic distraction. And during all of this, he uses a wrist crossbow that he's hidden to deliver another poisoned dart. But this time he's targeting Thaddeus.
Right.
What's so significant about using such a dramatic diversion at that moment?
Well, I think the grand piano incident serves a couple of purposes.
Okay.
First, it obviously creates this huge distraction, drawing attention away from what Eustace is actually doing.
Right.
And then the noise also masks that subtle sound of the crossbow.
I see.
Being fired. It's a calculated risk, of course. He's relying on that assumption that no one would ever associate such a precise act with someone so seemingly clumsy.
Yeah.
They would never suspect him of being capable of something that required that kind of skill.
Right. And it works because Thaddeus collapses.
Yes.
And Eustace immediately puts on this whole act of feigned alarm.
Of course.
And there's this moment where he murmurs this remark about how Thaddeus was overwhelmed by the genius of it all.
Oh, ironic.
Right, dripping with irony. What does this tell us about what's motivating Eustace?
Well, I think it reveals this deep-seated desire for recognition.
Okay.
Albeit it's twisted.
Right.
And secret.
Yeah.
You see, he's not just motivated by eliminating his victims.
Right.
He also derives this perverse pleasure from outsmarting the brilliant detective.
Yeah.
From knowing that his deception was so complete.
Yeah.
That nobody suspected a thing.
It's almost like, he wants to get away with it.
Yes.
But he also wants to prove he's the smartest guy in the room.
He wants credit.
Yeah.
He can't take it publicly.
Right.
That would defeat the purpose.
And of course, his plan is to simply vanish.
Yes.
After this.
That's right.
In all the confusion, amidst all the apologies and mishaps, and just leave the case conveniently closed with Lady Windermere as the obvious suspect.
Yeah.
And Thaddeus is hailed as this genius who, almost cracked the case, completely oblivious to the truth. How is he able to escape so effectively?
Well, it's that persona he's cultivated.
Right.
He leverages it one last time.
Yeah.
His expected behavior, being flustered, making mistakes, it allows him to slip away unnoticed.
Right. No one's paying attention to him.
That's right. No one would ever suspect the clumsy sidekick of orchestrating such a complex scheme and then calmly exiting amidst the chaos he seemingly created.
He blends right in.
He does.
Yeah. It's just brilliant. The central irony of the story is fantastic. Who suspects the clown? Eustace's true intelligence and his deadly nature were hidden in plain sight, masked by all these blunders, and he's actually keeping this secret ledger.
Oh, wow.
Documenting all of his kills with this twisted sense of glee. What's the power of that kind of hidden record?
The ledger, I think, serves as confirmation of his deliberate actions and his satisfaction in his deception. It really highlights that duality of his character, this outwardly incompetent fool who's masking this cunning and deadly mind. It also underscores the extent of his manipulation. He's not just fooling others, he's meticulously documenting his success.
And the final entry in that ledger is, solved his own murder. Case closed. That's the final twist.
It is. The final devastating trick played on absolutely everyone.
Right. He's writing his own narrative.
He is.
In a way. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? You know, as we're delving into these stories from True Kill,
yes,
I think these narratives really show how deceptive appearances can be.
They do.
And just how unexpected sources of both danger and retribution can be, especially in these true crime-inspired scenarios. Like in that first story, what seemed like a pretty straightforward act of violence actually set off a completely different kind of conflict, led by someone who, initially everyone thought was vulnerable.
And then in that second story, the whole idea of who the real threat is, it gets totally flipped on its head.
Right.
It shows how just really carefully cultivated incompetence can actually be a remarkably effective disguise.
Right.
For deadly intelligence.
Right. I mean, it really makes you question your assumptions about strength and weakness, about who's really dangerous, and the different ways that vengeance can manifest. What parts of those characters' motivations and methods really resonated with you?
I think these deep dives into these scenarios really offer a compelling look at the art of deception. The often surprising faces of those who operate in the shadows, whether it's on a battlefield or in a drawing room. And we really hope this has provided you with some truly intriguing insights into those darker aspects of human nature and the masks that people wear.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And something else for you to consider. Have you ever, come across other instances, either historical accounts or maybe even in fictional narratives, where people use deception through appearances to their advantage? I mean, what might be some of the implications of these kinds of hidden agendas and unexpected capabilities? I mean, it really gives you something to think about.
It does. It makes you question everyone you meet, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah.
Who's wearing a mask?
Who are you really dealing with? All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but we'll be back with another deep dive soon. Thanks for listening.